Who is it that disrupts my peace? Oh, it's you. Back to find out what happened next to those four adventurers? Excellent. If you are prepared, I will tell you the next major events to transpire to those poor lost souls on their journey home. A chapter I call The Sun-Scorched Sea. Following their successful acquisition of a vessel and accompanying navigational instructions to a transoceanic settlement, our four explorers embarked upon the next phase of their expedition after a period of recuperation. The ocean around them was teeming with life, and all sorts of creatures seemed to dwell in these strange waters. After some time, they began to realize that the sun refused to set. As it climbed higher in the sky, it grew more intense and harsh, and time became meaningless as there was no way to track it. After what seemed to them like an eternity, they came across an island with a large hut sitting high on a cliff and decided to investigate. On the island, they were eagerly greeted by Jehess, an elf artificer. As it turns out, she had a similar experience coming here. Over a meal, she explained that she had woken up here on her island, not knowing how she got there. By her best guess, she had been marooned, or roughly 4 or 5 days, but other than that, she couldn't answer any of the party's questions. The group agreed to take Jess with them, as leaving her alone, stranded on the island, didn't sit well with anyone. Once everyone was ready, they set off in the direction the note had advised them to travel. After some considerable time, the group began to get restless and decided to check out a sunken ship that was in some shallow water. Matthias, having acquired the proper equipment in the mines, volunteered to see if there was anything of value in the wreck. Diving deep to the sunken ship, Matthias finds a sizable coin purse and manages to swim it back to their ship. Unfortunately, treasure isn't the only thing Matthias brings with him. A giant squid had followed him back to the ship, and after a brief but physically exhausting fight, the party manages to repel their tentacled terror. However, they still were far from being safe. All the attention had attracted the interest of several giant sharks. Choosing to try and run, they were quickly overtaken by the large predators, and were then forced to fight as the sharks began to inflict serious damage on their vessel. Afterwards, while conducting emergency repairs, Gathendriel spots a frogman holding onto the side of the ship. Immediately, the frogman signals others from under the water. A sharkman leapt from the water. His immense size noticeably shook the small watercraft. Seconds later, he is flanked by 2 other large individuals. One is a crocodile man, and the other a turtlekin. Without introductions, the sharkman begins to ask where the party is going and where they came from. As the group only had the note they found with the ship to go on, they couldn't answer any of the sharkman's questions. Nevertheless, he smiled a very unnerving smile and told them they were close to Kraken's Cove, a small settlement at the south part of a place called the Island. The group thanked them for the information, and without a word, 3 of the aquatic crew jumped back into the water. Only the turtlekin hesitated to nod his head before joining his crewmates. With land firmly in sight, the party begins to feel a sense of relief. Those moments would be short-lived, however. As they closed in on the land, several enormous tentacles broke the surface of the water and came crashing down on the little vessel. So ends Chapter 2. It's not a very positive way to end, but I wouldn't worry too much. Since you are so eager to learn more, let us continue to Chapter 3. The Forgotten Chapter 3. A town in trouble? Regaining consciousness, the party, all things considered, appear to be in reasonable condition. Heading down a beach trail, they wander into town just as the sun sets, a welcome relief. Several groups of people, mostly women and children, appear to be leaving a tavern called the Fin and Foot. They head inside without hesitation. Upon entering the tavern, the party is greeted with apprehension and suspicion from the few remaining patrons. The bartender offers a warm welcome, explaining that under different circumstances, a more enthusiastic reception would have been provided. However, the town is still recovering from a recent incident referred to as the Long Night. The ordeal spanned 2 days and nights. during which the small fishing town was besieged by a multitude of demonic and undead creatures. The bartender, Graham Grunston, then recounted how the actions of several key individuals saved the remaining townsfolk. Mayor Brinewood established a triage center at the Fin and Foot, while Both Stoma and his two sons organized a counter-offensive that repelled the monsters, providing enough time to reach several isolated families. Mayor Finn Deepwater, also proprietor of the Fin and Foot Tavern, assembled a security detail comprising Dugan Carvid, the town's strongman, Tyrone Finkus, a recent employee, and Sal Delaney, a reclusive fisherman. This team dedicated nearly 48 hours to defending the tavern and its occupants. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Petal, a young tiefling orphaned by the night's events, successfully led several families to safety at the Hasselstaff's residence, where Hank and Marge Hasselstaff employed magic to repel the attackers. Graham Grunston explained that the current unsettling circumstances have understandably caused fear among the townsfolk. Demonstrating the party's commitment to the town's well-being rather than contributing to its problems would be highly beneficial. Recent kobold raids on supplies have exacerbated these concerns. Addressing this issue would significantly bolster public trust. The party agreed to investigate first thing in the morning. Following the trail, the team arrived at a cave entrance and proceeded cautiously to reconnoiter. Several hours were spent navigating the cave's treacherous interior, avoiding numerous traps and dead ends. They eventually discovered a pit where a large group of kobolds were gathered around a fire, torturing a red-haired dwarf suspended from the ceiling. The adventurers swiftly engaged the kobolds, overcoming them with minimal difficulty. However, upon freeing the dwarf, his unrestrained jubilation and premature announcement of a discovery alerted additional kobolds deeper within the cave system. To avoid a protracted engagement, the team opted to collapse the cave entrance upon their departure, effectively sealing the kobolds within. Upon returning to the Fin and Foot, it was determined that the rescued engineer, Gorik Gruniston, was the bartender's brother, who had arrived shortly before the long night and been captured en route to town. Graham celebrated with a lavish dinner for the party and facilitated introductions to the townspeople. Thus concludes Chapter 3. I trust you enjoyed it. I require respite, but eagerly anticipate your return for further installments of The Forgotten.